Hello, I'm Olena Grinyuk, and we are recording our next episode of SME Banking Conversations in Kraków again. Today and tomorrow we are hosting our CEE23 SME Banking Conference here, and I'm taking this opportunity to talk to Wootton, CEO and co-founder at SaaScada, a tech company from London providing core banking platform. Nelson, hello.
Hi.
And I'm very excited to welcome you in Kraków.
It's wonderful to be here. Snow. That's the first snow I've seen this year. It's fabulous.
So let's start our conversation. And I think that the first question to you will be about, please tell us about SaaScada, because I guess this will be new information for our viewers here in the CE region. So what is it about?
Yeah, so SaaScada is a core banking platform. We like to talk about doing all the boring pieces of banking, and it's worth unpacking that statement because it sounds a little frightening and investors go, what? So if we think about banks, intrinsically banks have an awful lot of things in common with other banks. They have accounts that are addressable locally and sometimes internationally that you can send money in and send money out. They may well have card products associated with those accounts. They may well have an exchange for foreign currency or some other asset to be brought into those accounts. They'll always have ledgers for all of their customer accounts and often for the bank's own accounts for treasury management, liquidity, Vostro, Nostro accounts. And of course, banks have products. So they have a product engine, a product suite that kind of defines the kind of offering that they give to their customers. And that could be transactional current account offering, it could be deposit accounts, it could be lending accounts. This is what SaaScada does, and we do it all in a box. We provide APIs at the top to allow banks to build differentiators on top, and I'll talk about what those differentiators are. And at the bottom of our system, we plug into the local payment systems to provide transactional in and out. We'll plug into card processors if the bank wants a card product, and we'll plug into any exchange in order to bring those assets through and onto the platform. The reason we focused on that is actually that's an incredibly common aspect in banking everywhere in the world. Okay, and what differentiates banks is all the stuff that sits on top, right? This is kind of their customer service, the online banking, mobile banking, loan origination, credit risk decisioning. These are all things that make banks different from other banks, the customer segments they want to focus on. And we believe that banks should not spend money on this boring bit at the bottom, okay? It's commoditized, it's the same every single time. The money needs to be spent on the differentiators that a bank has. And that's really what SaaScada's focus is.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your path to SaaScada actually?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's a good question. So I'm a techie. I'm sorry, that's just true. I'm a techie. I love technology. I got into technology around the mid-90s. I've got lots of grey hair. When the internet really started gaining traction, and I've had a series of different companies in that space for many, many different years. And a good friend of mine, my co-founder in SaaScada, he approached me back in 2013. He wanted to launch a bank in the UK and asked me to come and help him do that. And we did. And doing it helped us understand how almost unfit for purpose core banking systems are. They're very old, the technology's old, it's very expensive to deploy, it's very expensive to change, and it restricts some of what a bank is able to do. Having built the bank and scaled it and subsequently sold it, we decided to take everything we'd learned and build a core banking system that was fit for purpose, that would enable banks to be agile, to offer a really full wide product suite, and to be genuinely innovative innovative about the kind of products they launched and took to market. So yeah, it's my co-founder Steve Round. He's the banker of the two of us. I'm the techie guy.
Okay. So you came to Kraków. Do you consider the CEE markets as interesting for you?
Absolutely. Okay. So there's a few things that we do slightly differently as a business, and I'll touch on that at the moment. But we started in Western Europe. We started in the UK. The Swiss market is also a really big market for us. And we are in the process of expanding out across Europe, and we are looking at different territories in Europe as well as globally at the moment to take our product to. Central Eastern Europe is absolutely one of the critical markets. We see lots of innovation here. We see lots of the similar challenges that Western Europe faces, particularly around SME banking, and we believe we've got a really, really good product fit to market. So we're here to build relationships, to understand who's operating in this market. We are only one piece of the puzzle. I think it's really important to be clear about that. We do this boring bit at the bottom, and you know, when we talk about the differentiators that sit on top, those are also localized for the communities that they serve, and there's often different regulatory restraints around that as you move from one country to another, which is why it's important that we focus on this bit here and build relationships to help us take the product forward in different markets. But yeah, we're really, really excited about this part of the world. We think it's super exciting. We can see real innovation happening, and we really want to be part of that story, really. And we think you guys have also got some of the challenges we've helped solve in Western Europe. So it's probably worth me talking about some of the things that we do slightly differently as a build onto that. So there's kind of a number of issues that we saw when building a bank ourselves that we sought to solve with SaaScada. So the first one, I think, is around how products are constructed in a bank. So typically, I'm going to use a techie term now, typically we see that the functionality of an account and the code that runs that is tightly coupled, meaning that those things are very, very tightly interlinked. And typically core banking systems will often start with lending, because banks make money from lending money. It's a very, very important thing to banks.
I would say.
Yes, indeed. Something else that's changing.
This is not a story anymore, and will not be, I guess.
So what happens is lots of core banking systems start with lending, and the code that runs the products and the product systems, the accounts themselves, are very tightly linked together. And they'll often go off to capital markets to raise money to start off with. Later on down the line, either through changes in regulation or appetite of the business, they then start wanting to attract deposits in. And that core banking system, that product, is kind of pulled out and it's stuck over here and it's turned upside down so that now it earns interest instead of charging interest. And it's okay. It's not great. It's not as good as the lending bit was, but it's a kind of okay. And further on down the line, they get into transactional banking, and this piece is taken and they pull the kind of interest piece off and go, here's your transactional account. And again, it gets slightly worse. And what happens in that scenario is this code base is now enormous, and it becomes very, very expensive to change. It becomes very expensive to maintain, and it also becomes very expensive to deploy. These are challenges that all of your attendees here will recognize. So what we did at SaaScada was we looked at all the little attributes that make up financial services products: interest earning, interest bearing, fees, payments, all of those different things, and we started building all these little attributes together, and we allow our customers to pull those together to build any kind of account on our platform. So we do not sell to our customers a lending module and then later on a deposit module and then later on a current account. Once you're on the platform, you can launch any kind of account, and we would encourage you to launch any kind of account. So it's the first thing we do really differently. The purpose behind that is to create agility for the bank. So as they see new opportunities and new products they want to take to market, or variations on their existing products, it shouldn't be an IT challenge to get those to market. Clearly, there's still compliance and regulatory concerns and reporting. I'm not dismissing any of those things that a bank has to do, but it shouldn't be IT that gets in the way. It should make that stuff happen, not stop it from happening. The second thing we did really differently is how we manage data. One of the really big challenges we saw running a bank is reporting. Reporting hurts. It's time consuming. It's super expensive. Typically, our research has shown that 10% of a head office banking cost is based around reporting, and that reporting is late. It's not real time. It's a month, 2 months later than you want it to be. You're always on the back foot with where you are when managing your bank. That's very frustrating. So we used, another techie term, an event-driven system. And in order to kind of create reports in real time, and it's worth unpacking that a little bit as well. So what actually happens inside SaaScada's core platform is we manage and process transactions as unstructured data. So when we get payments come in from at the bottom of our platform, or card transactions or exchange transactions, we capture all of the raw data that we get from that system, and we keep it inside our platform, and we process the transaction, and we store all those transactions as raw, unprocessed data. And we have an eventing system that sees those transactions happen, and it grabs the transaction and it creates a structured data view. That could be regulatory reports, it could be management information reporting, it could be anything you like. It could be rewards for cashback for customers who exhibit particular behaviour, if you like. There's no restriction to that. The ridiculous example I give is, if the CEO woke up one day of the bank and said, you know what, I'd like to understand what the weather was like when any transaction happened in the bank, you can go into our eventing system and you can enrich the data with weather at time and location and build instantly a brand new report. And you can apply that report to all the historical data that SaaScada's processed for you. So your ability to look at your data, turn it around and ask new questions and new questions again and new questions again is really, really powerful. And it happens in real time. So you can have an infinite number of these reports, and every time a transaction happens, all of these reports will be populated with the results of that transaction. Unlocking that power for a bank and changing the way they think about data is critical for what we kind of think about as the next stage of banking, which is much more personalized, a much deeper understanding with what a bank is doing and what a customer's doing with that bank. And clearly the regulators also looking at this, certainly in Western Europe at the moment, and pushing banks to be much more responsible with the products they offer clients and show understanding of what those clients are doing. And so real-time data to enable you to see what's happening on your platform with your customers is a critical component.
This is a crucial, I agree with that. And started, let's say, part of the banks here in the region started the process of changing their old core system, these monolithic ones, to the microservices, which will allow to embed actually different products and maybe even partners, one like if they cooperate with fintechs, you know. So some banks started this journey already, some banks planning to start this. So my question to you, I mean, knowing from my banking background that the changing of the core system is a really painful process. From your experience, how to make it less painful?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and you're absolutely right. It is terrifying for a bank to change core banking systems. It is probably one of the biggest decisions a board will take, and one that they'll seek to mitigate risk more than almost anything else they do. At SaaScada, what we tend to do is we look to work with banks that are trying to launch new products to market. And really the reason behind that is we would talk about a bank being risk on in their appetite at this moment in time. So if you're looking to launch some new product to market, you've already identified a potential opportunity, may or may not play out, we don't know yet, and you've got an appetite to try something new. And in fact, that is a really fantastic opportunity for someone like SaaScada to come in alongside everything you're doing now and work with you to deliver that. And the reason for that is that SaaScada's platform is going to be cheaper to deploy than changing your existing core system to deliver that new product. And we are deliberately targeting the market. There's some really good reasons why we're cheaper. Firstly, you know, we are absolutely lovers of everything cloud. The platform was built for the cloud. We didn't take an existing piece of software and put it in the cloud. We wrote a core banking system using cloud technology. And what that actually means means is if there are no transactions going through, the platform's off, which means we're not paying for those servers and our customers aren't paying for those servers. As transactions come in, it wakes up, does all the things it needs to, and goes back to sleep. That ability to scale is fabulous as far as volume's concerned, but it's also super good for cost. So being able to deliver a core banking system at lower cost than you can change your existing core is a key part of this journey. Because of how we manage data, we can fit in with all your existing reporting processes, right? So we can just build data views that fit in with all your existing management information, regulatory reporting. So the friction of running two systems side by side, we start to remove. And once we've launched that product with the bank, what we typically find happens is they go, this is quite nice, this new technology. You know, would it be possible to move some of the other products that we've got across? Absolutely, yeah. And that then starts looking like it, and it'll vary. So it might be that you run down the loan book on your old platform and run it up on SaaScada. Same with deposits, particularly if you're doing term deposits, you know, as the year expires and they come maturity, you open new accounts on the new platform. We think you cannot be underestimated how critical a migration like this is. It's incredibly frightening for a bank. We talk about it as open heart surgery while the customer's walking around, right? You don't even get to put the customer to sleep and operate on them. You've got to be transacting all the time this is happening. And so finding ways of mitigating that risk is absolutely critical. And for us, this has been one of the most successful ways, working with a bank to take a new product to market. So they'll sit our platform alongside their old one, and then they'll slowly migrate products across and eventually turn off this old platform.
Yep. Can you bring us some example of your customers and implementations?
Yeah, of course. So this is an SME Banking Conference, so let's talk about the UK's fastest growing business, which happens to be a bank, which happens to be focused on SME, right? Which is, it couldn't be a better fit than that. So Alika Bank, really, really great example, and a great example of agility and in fact the story that I'm talking about here. So Alika Bank approached us a couple of years ago. They wanted to launch a current account for SMEs. Some of the challenge they saw there, I don't know if it resonates with this market, but as a business owner, if you're very small, your current account's pretty fit for purpose. And as a business owner, if you're really big, your corporate bank account is fit for purpose. If you're anywhere in between the two, you really don't get a very good experience. It's a challenge we ourselves have got at SaaScada, and Alika are helping us address that. In that, as you start to grow your finance team, you want finance people are able to set up payments and your CFO to approve those payments. And that kind of workflow doesn't really exist in most bank accounts. It's great here, it's great up there, but this piece in the middle doesn't work. So we helped them launch a current account with a debit card. They also built a loyalty program around that, so you get 1% cash back on any card transactions. They use a data projection to capture that data, so as we see transactions happen, we're calculating per account the amount of cash back that each account earns each month. So it all sits in that side of the platform. And having done that, they also wanted to launch a savings wallet inside that account. So one of the things about SaaScada's platform is you can have multiple ledgers inside an account. And typically we experience that with a Revolut style product where you hold multiple currencies, but you can have multiple accounts within or ledgers within inside the account. So a savings wallet in this case for them is a current account, and then underneath there's a little savings area that you can put capital into, and it earns interest. So we've got a current account with an overdraft and a savings wallet inside that earns interest. Really, really cool business product. Great, right? With all the approval processes that an SME business needs. Initially, they were seeing lots and lots and lots of take-up for this account, but not so many transactions, and that was kind of puzzling. And on deeper understanding, it turns out that everyone really loves the savings wallet that was bearing interest for a business account. And so they then started the process of launching deposit accounts on our platform and raised a staggering amount. And in fact, within 10 days, it was billions of pounds that were raised. And it's a really, really good example of how a bank is with agility, the ability to kind of transform and move what you're doing as a product in response to what you're seeing as customer behavior, and that IT didn't get in the way of that, right? We were there to enable them and help them on that journey. And, you know, they are the UK's fastest growing business, which is an incredible accolade. I shouldn't be dismissive, right? You know, there's an awful lot that goes into making a bank agile, and they are an incredibly clever team who are winning awards all over the world. We are just one small part of that journey, and you know, something we're incredibly proud of. But as two businesses, we're very aligned in that need for agility, that, you know, your ability to spot what is working and what isn't working and change and move and take that to market really rapidly. The pace of change in all of our lives is getting faster and faster, and the reality is that is coming for banks too. And the winners are going to be those that can adapt and develop and move with that pace of change.
Yes, exactly. What are your plans for the next year?
Yeah, great. So we are. Yeah, it's a really super exciting year for us. So we'll be opening offices in Switzerland in the next year. So it's a big market. It's been a really big market for us. We are now looking for new areas of the world to move into. So I'm here to try and build relationships, as we touched on, and start looking at this as a market to operate in. I think commercially it's going to make a lot of sense for organisations in this part of the world to work with a company like SaaScada. We will be looking to do a fundraise towards the end of next year, and then we'll be looking for further markets to take the product to. There's a whole world of opportunity out there for us, and we'll continue to build and develop and partner with our customers. It's really important that we do that. They are right at the front of what's happening and what they need, and that relationship with our customers and them feeding back to us where they need to see change and new things happen is a critical part of what we do as a business.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
If you like this conversation, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, Nelson, for this conversation.